two rivalry games in two different sports. We're going to recap it all right here on Ragin Rundown. What's good, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome into another episode here on Ragin Rundown, the show where you will know all things UL sports. I'm your guy, Jamarcus Fitzpatrick, but you know you can always call me Fitz. And in tonight's episode, we're here live on YouTube, and we're going to recap both baseball and softball falling to in-state foe ULM in two separate games. Softball would lose 4-1, while baseball would fall 5-3. And the crazy part, both of these games really followed similar trends in the way that things ended for the Cajuns. So let's start things off talking about softball. Coming in, both teams were 3-3 in the league, and the Cajuns were able to get out to a fast start. Deja Williams was able to get on there in the first inning, and then Kennedy Marceau follows things up, and she's able to drive in a double. She gets a double, and she drives in Deja Williams. So now they're up 1-0. So you're thinking you've got a great start on the road. We've talked about it many times how this team absolutely has to be able to get great starts whenever they're out on the road and create their own energy. And for a minute, it looked like they were going to be able to do that. But then immediately, ULM shifts it back in their favor. They get two runners on, and Olivia Fagert has a two-run double. ULM takes a 2-1 lead. That erased all the momentum that the Cajuns had built there at that point. And so then we get to the middle innings where there were missed opportunities for UL. They were in the second through the fifth inning. The Cajuns consistently threatened to have runners, especially in scoring position. You had multiple hits in the second. You had runners in scoring position, like I mentioned, but you didn't have the clutch hit, and there wasn't enough execution to be able to get it done to pull out the victory. And this is where the game was quietly lost for you, because when you leave 9 base runners on, that's going to always be what you feel like we had an opportunity and we missed out on being able to get it done. Meanwhile, you were able to have Sage Hoover to give you a start. She settles in. She kept it a one-run game, and that's what you want to be able to do. Coach Habits has talked about it multiple times of just wanting to be able to have a chance, and that is great. That's wonderful when your pitcher is able to hold the team to just keep it within a one-run game. That's a great thing to have. But ultimately, you've got to be able to respond, and you've got to be able to drive those runs in. And they weren't able to do that. You get to the sixth inning, that's when the breaking point happened. You have a pitching change, and the momentum of the game swings. Julianne Tipton comes in, ULM strikes. They get a double, a walk, an RBI single, and another RBI hit. 2 runs are scored. They go up 4-1. And that inning really felt like it was them slamming the door shut. And that's absolutely what it was. You had a final chance there in the seventh. You get traffic going. You have 2 runners on again, but you don't get the big hit. And the game ends with runners stranded. And you really would like to have had a better opportunity in this game, but you just weren't able to do that. Some themes from this one: you had so many left opportunities out there, 8 hits and only 1 run. That's something that you feel like you're better offensively as a team, and you just weren't in that instance. 9 runners were left on base, like I mentioned. Credit to Kennedy Marceau for going out there and playing a heck of a game. She had 3 hits and an RBI. She carried the offense on her back on the night. Pitching wise, Sage Hoover again gave you a chance, and that's all you can really ask for. But then late, the bullpen let things slip away from you. So this wasn't a dominant victory by ULM. They just executed better than you, and they were able to get the timely hits and hold you off after you got that 1 run going. You threatened multiple times, so you were able to get hits. And it's great to be able to get hits, but those don't matter if you can't drive those runs in. And you just weren't able to do that. So the Cajuns fall 4-1. It was actually the first time that ULM has beaten the Cajuns in Monroe since, I believe, the 2007 season. So now looking at the Sun Belt Conference standings, ULM is 4-3 in the league, and they are, let's see, Southern Miss is 5-2, South Alabama's 4-2, Marshall's 5-3, Texas State's 5-3, ULM is 4-3. So that's right around the third or fourth mark in the standings. And then you're sitting there at 3-4, tied with Troy near the bottom of the pack. So the series is not over. You have an opportunity to get things right and to be able to bounce back and potentially win. Game two is tomorrow on Saturday at 2 p.m. And then Sunday, you'll have game three at 1 p.m. But you've got to be able to respond. You've got to be able to play better. And you've got to be able to have more answers than the questions that what you had tonight's game. So I'm going to take a quick timeout and step away for just a second. And when we come back, we're going to keep talking about the same thing, the Warhawks beating the Cajuns, but we're going to switch over to baseball and we're going to take a trip out to the T to talk about how that game went. We'll break it all down when we get back here on Raging Rundown. Hey guys, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Raging Rundown. I greatly appreciate you. If you're watching in here live, thank you so much. If you're watching it on demand, thank you as well. Please do me a favor, like this video, share it, leave a comment down below, but most importantly, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. If you're listening on the podcast side, because I'm going to upload this right after, if you're listening, please follow the podcast feed, rate the show, and leave us a review because we'll be able to get in front of more Raging Cajun fans just like yourself. Um, Cajuns baseball faced off with ULM as well. And coming into this one, the Warhawks were the best hitting team in the Sun Belt. They had the highest batting average in the entire conference. So you expected for them to be able to get their hits because that's what they have been doing all season long. Coming in, they were 4-2, and you were 2-4. You're coming off of the weekend sweep against Texas State, and you're trying to wash that taste out of your mouth. You have one of the better ERAs as a pitching staff as a whole, going against one of the better hitting teams in the conference. So it's best against best, and it was going to be about who was going to be able to execute better of what this game would come down to, and it would go into the Warhawks' favor of who executed better. So the first two innings, you were just filling each other out, both teams trading zeros. ULM got traffic, and credit to Sawyer Pruitt, having a couple of instances where the Warhawks, I believe it was there in the first inning, he gives up a double, and then he has an errant throw, so the runner gets on third, but he's able to get out of the jam. So credit to the freshman Sawyer Pruitt for continuing to keep a level head. But I think I talked about it when I was on ESPN radio earlier this week with Raymond Parks. Shout out to him and everything that they do there. It almost feels like if the bullpen doesn't have a perfect game every single time, the Cajuns aren't going to have their best chance because offensively, the bats are just so quiet, and they were just the same way here on Friday night. So teams are filling each other out. And then you get to the third, the Cajuns strike first. You work the small ball, you get a walk, a steal, a productive out, and the Cajuns take the 1-0 lead. It was a Blaze Rodriguez ground out that drew in Drew Markle to be able to get the run. You go to the fourth inning, and you able to build up some momentum. Jace LaCava gets on, and then Steven Spalita blasts a 2-run homer over the wall. Cajuns go up 3-0. And so now at this point, you're feeling like the Cajuns are about to take control in the game, very similar to the way things were in softball's loss. But then the fifth inning, warning signs start to come. ULM scratches a run across that cuts it to a 3-1 lead. And it didn't feel like it was huge yet, but the momentum was definitely starting to shift. So you get to the sixth inning, and that's where the game shifted, and ultimately the collapse did happen. Everything unravels. You have a hit, you have a walk, you have an RBI single, and then Davis Moezi or Mosey, I think it is. I have to go back and get his name pronunciated correctly. He hits a 3-run homer. ULM scores 4 runs in the inning, and the score flips. It's 5-3, and the entire game was at hand right there. The seventh and through the ninth innings, you had missed comeback chances, but you weren't able to get it done. You get opportunities, you get walks, you get base runners late. I believe they left 7 base runners on. But again, no clutch hitting, no momentum regained. And the game ends with Louisiana still trailing the way that they were there in those middle innings there in the sixth. So one inning really changed this game, very similar to the way it was for softball. You were dominant through the first 4 innings. Again, Sawyer Pruitt worked through traffic. He was able to get out of a jam, and that's ultimately what you want to be able to see out of this young freshman because he is having great Friday night starts for you. And it almost sometimes feels like you're wasting some of those performances that he's having because you're not able to get it going offensively. And you lost pretty much all of the game there in the sixth inning. Offensively, the issues that we've talked about multiple times, the plate discipline, the approach of how they're handling things. Coach Diggs talked about it in post game. I asked him, he had a lot of frustration on his face, and rightfully so. His team had just lost the game, and I asked him, what is it about this team that makes it frustrating? Do you feel like they can be better? Do you feel like, this is all you have and you can't really figure it out? What is it that brings about the frustration for you? And he said that it was simply the way that they approach things at the dish. And so those guys are going to have to continue to fight. They're going to have to continue to find a way to make it work, because teams that are good, great teams, championship caliber teams, find a way. There's no other way to put it. If you want to be the team that you say you want to be, if you want to win a Sun Belt championship, if you want to win the Sun Belt tournament, if you want to play in a regional, if you want to host a regional, if you want to go to the College World Series, you have to be disciplined behind the plate. You have to have the right approach. You have to wait for the right pitch that you want and be able to swing forward and get on base and drive in runs with those timely hits. That's the only way that you're going to be able to do it. Um, you only had 5 hits. You were shut out over 5 innings. You had a bit of a pitching breakdown towards the back. Saw you Pruitt again. Had a strong start for you, but then you couldn't finish things there on the back end. The bullpen obviously inherited a bad situation, because I believe when he left the game, it was 2 runners on that eventually led to the home run. And then obviously you have the game breaker there with the 3-run homer. Timely hits went in the favor of the Warhawks, and they were not for you in this instance. So, in the big picture thing, if you combine both games, softball and baseball, it is pretty much the same story. You had strong starts, you had missed opportunities, you had one bad stretch, and the game was over. So now, what has to change? You have to have clutch hitting in key moments. You have to limit damage in innings, so you have to get out of jams. You have to find a way to get outs. You have to find a way to keep teams from scoring runs, particularly the Warhawks, because this is the series that you're in. And you have to finish games when you have control of it. You have to find a way to slam the door shut. So we'll be keeping our eye on this, and hopefully we can do some more of these live post game sessions, podcast episodes. That can be something. If you guys enjoy that, let me know down in the comments. If you prefer an actual, immediate post game reaction, or would you rather me to wait to record it or do the whole series like what I've been doing? Let me know your thoughts down there in the comments, because right now Louisiana is not getting blown out. Obviously, for baseball, they were thumped against Texas State, and even softball were thumped pretty good against Southern Miss. But this series, they weren't getting blown out. They were beating themselves, and in conference play, that's the difference between winning series and ultimately losing them. So both teams have an opportunity to get it right tomorrow, as they will both play against the Warhawks once again at 2 p.m. So that's going to wrap up this episode here on Raging Rundown. If you're joining us live, thank you so much. If you're watching us on demand, thank you as well. Please do me a favor. Please like this video, share it, leave a comment down below. But most importantly, make sure you subscribe to the channel so you know when we're dropping episodes just like this one. If you're listening on the podcast side, go ahead and follow the feed, rate the show, and leave us a review, because that will help us get in front of more Raging Cajun fans just like yourself. I'm your guy, Jamarcus Fitzpatrick. We're going to see you guys in the next episode. Y'all have a good one.